All right, there we go. I think we got the settings back. I don't know why that software loves to lose the settings every dang time. Okay, here we go. All right, so what are we working on here? I have a SpriteKit view inside a SwiftUI application this week. And you may be wondering why. Well, there are a few things I want to get done here. And a project that I've always wanted to do is generate a sprite generator, if you like, art generator. And I was playing around with some settings and found that, yep, I can do exactly what I think I want to do here. And I have a version that was kind of, I'll open it up here. It was a quick version, but I'll open it up and run it so you can see it here. And we'll do it on, let's do it on an iPad, I think. Well, actually, we can run it on the iPod Touch. That's fine. Let's let this spin up, and you'll see what's going on here. This was a very quick experiment to just generate some graphics here. All right, while that's loading up, there we go. Okay, come on, come on, Xcode. I don't know why Xcode forgets and just fouls first time. Okay, so what we got here is a view, right? This is a SpriteKit view, and it's generating these lines. So what I wanted to do is kind of in the vein of where this is going is almost like a fractal generation type thing, right? Is the best way I can describe it, that inspired me for this. And I wanted to start by drawing a line from the center of the screen, and it went out at some random angle, right, for a distance, and then spurred off to another angle with another line, and so on and so on. And the idea being here that there will be settings to control things like angles, the lines, the branching, how many branches there are, all of that kind of stuff, right? And just to show you, I'll just run it again, and you'll see that it'll generate a completely different line, right? So what's going on here is, if I just go over to these quickly, I got some code here, right? And you can see that everything's hard coded at the moment because, like I say, this was a couple of hours of experimenting to see. But if I tell it, instead of drawing 3 lines, to draw 30, you'll see what's going on here, right? See how we started this center point, and then it's just randomly going out, random distances, random angles from the end of one line to the next. Kind of, I guess, kind of like a bit of an arc of electricity or whatever. So anyway, it's all very random, very mangled right now. But it told me that the engine that I had here was working, and even in a very simple way, right? So it's like, great, got that working, right? So if we go to 10 lines, and we can change some of the numbers, but again, they're all hard coded, right? So, like, for example, the rotation for the next endpoint for the line is right here, and I'm just telling it, hey, X and Y, choose a random number between 0 and 360 degrees, right? If I change this to, say, between 0 and 180, you'll find that, it becomes a lot more controlled, right? Which is the idea here. And see how it's not so manic, right? And the point being is that there will be controls on the screen to build this and control these numbers in some way. Not really sure what the end goal here is for this, other than this is just something I wanted to build and explore, and then as it progresses, it'll sort of tell me where it's going to go and what I think I want to generate art-wise. Like, you're going to want it to generate fractal type patterns, right? Maybe you're going to want one branch that generates, and then that same branch is generated 5 times in a circle or something like that, right? You get the idea. And so that's what this code was for. So what I did was I realized, okay, great, that engine is going to work just fine in SpriteKit. And let's look at the next problem that needs to be solved before we build on the engine, which is the controls to control the screen. Well, the problem was that SpriteKit doesn't have like SwiftUI controls, the UI controls. So I was like, okay, crap, got to go back, start again, think about this. So that's where we ended up here, where I've now got a SpriteKit view inside a SwiftUI application so that I can use the SwiftUI controls to control what goes on in the SpriteKit view for the generating of the art. So as you can see here, I just started work on this about maybe an hour ago, and I've got the SpriteKit view inside a SwiftUI view here, right? You can see here's my content view over here, and here's my build a SpriteKit scene, put that SpriteKit scene inside a SwiftUI view, and I've got just a text label above it for now. But the problem I need to resolve now is I think everything's rendering off the screen. I think my 0 point, my anchor point is screwed up somehow, or scaling or something, because my 0 point is clearly not in the middle of the screen anymore like it was in the previous version. And that's what's going on there. Give me 1 second. After that explanation, I need a drink. Give me 1 second and I will be right back. Yeah, okay. All right, so that's where we're at with this. We can do away with this simulator now. There we go. So that's the problem I'm currently solving right here. So what I've been experimenting with is setting the anchor point, but I don't think it's getting me where I need to go, because when I set the anchor point here, I don't think it's happening in the middle of the screen. I still feel like somehow it's all happening off the screen here. So I'm looking into this. What I did, I added a new shape, and it's just a dot. So the whole point here is that what this does is draws one single dot at the location I tell it, just like with the lines, which I'm hoping should have been the center of the screen, right? And actually I can see value to having that dot in the center of the screen so we know what's going on anyway. But right now it's not doing it. So, or it is either that or it's doing it and I'm not seeing it. Now what I could do here, let's just experiment and have a little fun here. If I change this to draw dot, instead of drawing lines, what should happen now is when we go back, it'll draw dots instead, right? But interestingly, it's drawing lines, and I think actually the reason being, my dot, start point, and end point is still following these rules. So in reality, my dot is still a line now that I think about it. But let's go back to this. What I could do here, just temporarily, instead of calling draw branch, which calls draw line, I could just call draw dot instead. Let's try that. So see here where I've got this here, and it's gonna basically, I mean, I'm trying to add the dot here already, but if I crop out the lines, so that the did move doesn't run that, we should end up with the dot in the middle of the screen, which is what I'm not seeing right now. It's really the best way I can describe that, if that makes sense. So that's what we got going on here. That's what I'm working on. I want to get this working here so I can get the controls in to start enable some control of the drawing itself, so we don't end up with complete chaos. All right. Feel free to ask questions in the chat about any of this. This is just a fun project that I wanted to do. What I'm going to do, actually, just for reference to make sure I'm not completely crazy, I'm going to open up my original version here. And I'm going to add my draw dot function in there. Go back over to here. And draw a dot, right? So let's just say new dot equals draw a dot. We want it to be 0, 0 for the location. Whoops. And then we want to do self.addTheChild, which is going to be our new dot. Add that to the screen. Let's run that. Not sure that I'm seeing my dot there. It should be a bright yellow dot. Bright green, sorry. Actually, you know what? Let's try something. Let's make this so that it sort of arcs out at 45 degrees. Run it again. Okay, there's my green dot. Perfect. All right, I think the problem was actually, since it was 0, 0, 0, 0, even though I had a width, it had no pixel value with which to draw, if that makes sense. That's my theory. Right, I can just see my green dot there. If I make the line width something insane, like, I don't know, 50. Okay, there it is. You can see it there now. All right. So I know that my generator works there for the line, right? For the draw dot over here, let's do the same thing. Let's make it 10. Actually, let's make it an actual line right now. So we do 50 so that I can see it if it's going to appear on the screen. And then let's kill off the code for the anchor point. Okay, see, look, there it is right there in the bottom corner, right? What I need is for it to not be in the bottom corner which is the starting point 0, 0. I actually need it to be in the middle there, which I'll be honest, I thought this was going to do for me, right? Because since I'm using this 1024 by 768, half of that, of course, is going to be in the middle of the middle. And I thought for sure that that was going to do that, setting the anchor point. But maybe I'm misunderstanding how the anchor point works, and that's what I was looking at over here. So I want SK scene. That's just showing me how to do that. Now the view. No. All right, line width. Okay. If I take that out of there, let's hard code a number here to see if my theory is at least good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this sprite location here to exactly half of our numbers, right? So instead of trying to reset the anchor here, what I'm going to do is take this just now here temporarily to try this out. Let's take some coffee here. That's better. Okay. And then I'm going to put my start point to be basically half of my screen. Make sense? Go over to content view. Oh, well, we can run it, but that's not actually what I wanted to do. I wanted to change this here. So X and Y. Okay. And I actually just want to resume it here. Perfect. So the theory does work, right? It puts the dot in the middle, but it's not doing it. I really don't want to do that way, because I think that if I force it over, instead of setting the 0 point to be the middle, I think what's going to happen is later down the road, it's going to bite me when I start to do some other calculations for other fancy drawing parts, as it were. So even though this works, it tells me that all the code is sound, but I'm not. I need 0, 0 to be in the middle of the screen, right? So like this sprite location of 0, 0, I need it to be 0, 0, but in 0, 0 for the screen needs to be in the middle. And I thought I thought the anchor point here, let me find my code again. That generates the scene. I was thinking that that was going to do that, but that doesn't seem to be happy. But I'm wondering if maybe I'm just doing it in the wrong place, right? Let's try it here. Should be the same thing. I mean, this should be the same math, right? Still not perfect, but it's getting me closer. I really don't want those numbers hard-coded in there. Let's change this. So we want the sprite, still want it to be the sprite location. So the start point does need to be, whoops, sprite location, right? Because we want it to be 0, 0. Pretty sure if I say the sprite location equals the center anchor, that should work too. Except I've screwed some code up somewhere. Oh yeah, yeah. Okay. Not going to be able to use that there. All right. Still don't think this is the final solution, but I think we're getting closer to it. Okay, so we've got our green. Let's now go back. Let's bring in our lines here. And let's bring our dot back to being just a dot. So we're going to should have a green dot with our random red shapes, red lines, right? Which we do. Oh, but you know what? See, that this is exactly what I was talking about, it being a problem later on, because it's now drawing back to 1, 1 for the green, which is way down in this corner, right? What it actually needs to be here is, and like I say, I don't think that this is the final solution, but our red lines are working off down here, which, yeah, again, this is random, so we may have to hit this a few times. Yeah, see? Okay. Oops, let's turn that off. Still feel like it's coming from this corner over here, right? But let's fix up our green dot. And our dot endpoint here, we can fix this. We shouldn't have to add the value every time, right? So what I'm going to do is, I know it sounds crazy, but in the grand scheme of things, the math's got to work out here. 0, 0, and then 1, 1 is going to be off, right? So it's actually the dot, even though it's going to be look like a dot for the most part. If you was to really zoom in on it, you're going to find it's actually a very small line, right, of a length of 1. So what we need to do is shift its position slightly so that at least it's on the center and not off by 1, which I hope makes sense. But like I said, we're talking extreme zoom here, but you just don't know where this is going to end up. So I want to try and get it right from day one, right? Because this may end up really working out well as a generator, and I don't want to have to go back and fix something just because I screwed the math at the very beginning. So my start point and my end point, I don't want to have to calculate the values to send them in. I should just send them into the function to make it clean. And in here, I'm going to do the adjustment, because that adjustment will always be the same. It's always going to be constant, right? You want the dot to be centered on the location that you're going to give it. You're always going to have to shift it by that one length that you're giving it to get the the thing to appear on the screen, even though we have a line with the 5. But what I'm wondering, actually, now that I think about it, I'm thinking that there may be an SK shape node that's like a circle or something like that. So that we can, instead of having to draw a line of minimal length, I can just literally draw a dot, right? That's a very super small circle. Okay, so this creates a circle with a blue interior and a white outline. Let's take this from the Apple documentation and adjust it, because I think that would be better than a line. So we're just going to draw, I guess at this point it could end up being to draw a circle function. We'll see, right? But we're going to return the ball. Let's just go with that. It's probably going to be way too big, but let's see what we get. Okay, see, there it is, right down there, right? It's got a radius of 15. Line width of 2. We're going to make the fill color to be green, and then the stroke color to be, let's just do, actually, we don't even really need a stroke color, let's be honest, right? So, and I don't need a glow. That should make a very straightforward green circle, which it does right down there. So at least I got something now that I can work with here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this as is, right? We've got it generating. Now that we've got everything is coming out of the bottom corner here of the screen, right? We want to shift everything over to here, and it's just going to work exactly the way we want it. But I really want, more than anything, I want to see that green dot there, right? And again, I don't want to force it by making fake math, as it were. I don't want to hard code the math, because again, many devices, many screen sizes, plus on the Mac and everything else, I want it to always be figuring out mathematically, where is the center of this thing, right? I don't want this. I don't want to feed it the numbers. I want it to figure the numbers out for itself. So let's take a look at that. And interestingly, what's happening here, if I go over to our community game that we do on this stream, by the way, midweek, Wednesday evenings, and if I run this, you will find that we've actually solved the problem here, because we'll let it fire up. But we've solved the problem because we actually do set it to 0, 0 in the center for all of our other calculations. So if I run the game here, Come on, Xcode. Okay, so if I run the game, our center point is right here, right? And that is, we calculate the offsets for all of these other parts based on that 0, 0. So that's really what I'm looking for here, right? And this is a cool game, by the way, that we're working on. Shout out to My Own Treachery and Nicholas and all the other folks, Coco Type and all the others who I've probably forgotten to mention. We're all working on this together and having a lot of fun with this midweek. This is another project we're working on. And this is what I learned from SpriteKit here is kind of what I'm taking forward in some ways to this other application, right? So let's get rid of those. I'm gonna kill off a few things here. Let's kill off all of those. We don't need them. Okay, there we go. Oh, actually, you know what? Hang on. Didn't kill it, did it? There you go. All right, so back to our original problem here, but still I'm a lot better off than I was when I started this morning, which is awesome. Hey, Sevens, how you doing? What you up to? What you been doing? Hope you're having a good weekend, or if your week has started for you. If you get any questions or any comments or anything, please feel free to put them in the chat. I'll try and answer them the best I can. Okay, so our shapes are fine. We're going to leave the drawing of this dot and the lines and the branch alone for right now because those are all good. I think the problem needs to be solved right here at the base level in the sprite screen. Seven says, doing good. I've been enjoying your podcasts. Oh, well, thank you. I really appreciate that. That actually really means a lot to me that you've been listening to the podcast and appreciate them. I really do appreciate the feedback on that. I love doing those podcasts. And the problem with podcasts, unlike the live streaming here, you always wonder, right? Like, are folks, I know the stats tell me folks are listening, but you always wonder, like, what are they thinking, right? I know I always ask people to put reviews and ratings and stuff, but thank you so much for letting me know on that. Really means a lot because that comment from you alone there makes me want to go and do the next episode. So thank you. You downloaded a bunch when you had a flight a couple of weeks ago. Oh, so I do the same thing when I used to have to travel a lot from flight before, before the world went the way it is. I used to download a whole bunch of podcasts, whole bunch of audiobooks, whole bunch of videos. And then I remember one year I was even sitting on a plane watching the WWDC videos. So I'm right there. I do the same thing. Your week is starting good. It's been great so far. Fantastic. I really hope it keeps going that way for you, buddy. Really do. I feel like I've had a fantastic weekend getting this stuff working. This project idea was something I've wanted to do for years, and I knew that I hadn't found the right approach that I wanted to do with it. And then when I started playing with SpriteKit, I realized, oh, this is probably the time to go back and do this. So yeah, but yeah, thank you so much for letting me know about the podcast. I really appreciate that. And listen out, maybe I'll give you a shout in the next one. You never know. It's being ready to record it. So thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. And if there's anything you would love for me to talk about on the podcast, please mention it in chat. I would love to talk about it. Go do the research if I have to. So thank you. All right, let's see, make sure this still runs. Okay, so you can see, right, if I see these, I want it to see how it's doing it, right? It's not recalculating it, but it is recalculating the ratio of the aspect fill because that's the way I have it set up for the SpriteKit view. But here's our dot right here, right down there in the corner. So that is still the thing I gotta solve here. You're new to everything SwiftUI, and aren't we all? And I'm just learning in all ways possible. Not sure what to request, but I will start thinking of ideas. Hey, you know what? Ask me anything at all. It is fine. I've got to do a bunch of new videos, and I have a list of videos that people have asked me to do, and I'm going to work on those as well. But I'm having a lot of fun with SwiftUI. So if there's anything you want in there at all, please just whatever it is. There's no bad questions, right? So just ask away. Thank you. Lord knows at this point, I think I learn more by getting SwiftUI things wrong than I do by getting them right. But like this today, having a SpriteKit scene in a SwiftUI view before this morning, had no clue how to do that. Arguably at this point, I still don't have a full clue how to do it because it's only half working. But please ask away. I'm getting there with the SwiftUI. And I came up through storyboards and everything else and all that. So I'm trying to translate my brain from storyboards and doing it in code and constraints and everything else to the new way of SwiftUI with significantly less code. And I really like it, but there are lots of little things and lots of big things too. So yeah, believe me, there's no silly question, no nothing. Whatever it is, just ask away or reach out to me on any, look for Compile Swift anywhere, right? I got a Facebook page, facebook.com/compile SW, or you can reach out to me on Twitter and all that. Just look for Compile Swift. You can reach out to me, even on compileswift.com. Fill in the form, ask questions. I love to help people. So thank you. Okay, so here's the thing, right? My center dot should be drawn at the center anchor point. And the center anchor point is currently set to the middle of the screen. And yet it's still not rendering it out correctly, right? So yet when I did this, let me make sure I'm not completely crazy. The start point, because I'm pretty sure at some point I had this hard coded. It's going to tell me, well, you got to make that an X and a Y. Hey, British Frog. Hey, British. Well done. First time watcher. Hey, how you doing, bud? Thank you. Appreciate that. Welcome. Recently evolved our team towards production using usage of SwiftUI. Yeah. And the hot topic is cut off between existing UI kit usage and SwiftUI, perhaps a topic for your podcast. That is a perfect suggestion for a podcast topic because I know my team is going through the same thing. And even worse is I sort of get to make the call on it, which no pressure, right? That is a perfect discussion topic. Thank you. I will talk about that because I think there are pros and cons on both sides. Every time I have gone to do something with SwiftUI, everything works great until that point. And maybe this has been your experience. Let me know. I hit a point where it's like, but, and then there's this problem. And you're like, oh, well, this isn't a problem in UIKit, right? And so we go back to UIKit. And then we've all been there. You start to hit constraint problems with UIKit. And you're like, oh, but this is so much easier in SwiftUI. I totally get it. Totally understand. I will talk about that in an episode because people often forget as well. We can use both in, we can use SwiftUI in UIKit and UIKit in SwiftUI. We just have to set it up that way. So I will put together an episode to talk about that and sort of how we're solving the problem and our approach. Especially with the biggest problem, right, is always with the existing code bases. It's not only do you have that problem of I'm starting a new project, which one do I use? There is also that issue of I've got an existing project, which probably is not SwiftUI at this point. And how do I do that, right? Maybe you don't even have a storyboard. So maybe you have, you're building everything out in code, right? And how do you translate those across? Or, as you say, do you translate those across, or do you just look at it and say, it's not worth spending time on it, right? So I will talk about that in an episode. Thank you so much. eagerly await your perspective then. Yeah, thank you. I definitely have opinions on this because I think, like everybody, want to move forward, right? But as we all know, in the real world of applications that exist and working for companies and deliveries and everything else, you can't just move forward and forget the past, right? Always a problem. Also had the burden of leading the charge, and every perspective is gold with such a new technology. Yeah, I feel for you because I second guess every time I'm like, okay, this is what we're going to do. I'm sure you do the same thing. I second guess myself because of the problems that I know exist in one or the other technology, especially SwiftUI. And so I will put together some comprehensive thoughts on that and put them out there. And yeah, I'll share that. If you, if you already follow the podcast, you're going to naturally pick it up. If you don't, you will find a post when I do it on compileswift.com where I link up all the episodes as well. So thank you for that. That is an excellent suggestion and something that I know many folks struggle with. I am certainly one of them. So thank you for that. That is an excellent topic. So that's 2 topics I've got already. Look at that. Thank you so much. That's why I love the chat room. Everybody always has such great suggestions. Thank you so much. All right, so let's do this. Let's 768 divide. We're going to hard code the start point, and I'm going to go back, run this again. And it's not moving now. Remember when I had the code outside of here earlier on, apologies if it was before the stream, I actually could get the center point right there and make it work. So this is still does not feel like the right way to me because the math should just work, right? In one, you should be able to set it in one location, and then all of the other math has to come from that. Otherwise, we're going to have problems, right? So for the dot, the center, anchor, position for the start and the end, right? Come on, Xcode, catch up. There you go. So I definitely want to figure this one out because it feels so silly. It feels like something that's like, well, I should be able to just do this, right? What I'm going to do, I'm going to take this one off here. And I'm actually going to take this one back to the sprite location, which should still work. It's just essentially saying, look, go to 0, 0, which still at this point is the bottom left corner, as it always is, right? But let's just make sure I haven't broken it. Okay, so I still think the answer should be in here in our SpriteKit scene, because outside of the SpriteKit scene doesn't matter, right? Essentially what I'm setting up here by having this, because I've got this sprite view here, this SpriteKit scene as a separate, however you want to phrase it, a view, object, control within my SwiftUI application, it should all exist inside there, and everything that controls that should be on the outside to tell it what to do, right? That's the reason I'm doing this in SwiftUI. So for example, right, we've got the text here, but there may be, I could have, actually, let's do something here. Let's have, what's it called? The draggable bar. Slider. I couldn't, for the life of me, I couldn't think of it. Okay, so I could put a slider right in here, and the idea being is that this slider out here, right, let's just set this to 50, right? This slider out here, as you okay, yeah, it's got to be a binding. All right, let's just leave it like that, right? So as you drag this slider out here in the SwiftUI view for something, distance, the amount of branches, whatever it may be, there'll be a whole bunch of them. As you control these out here, it will send the instructions in to the SpriteKit view, right? That's why I'm setting it up this way, so that that's how this works. So you will have things for, like, how many branches, rotation, maybe random factor, all of those kind of things. I want all of those controls on the outside here to control this on the inside. And then on the inside, when this changes, it just knows it has to repaint itself. The reason being as well is in the SpriteKit engine that I had originally built for this, and let's go back to that, I actually, out of the box, because of the way it worked, it was actually animated, right? And so that's not what I wanted, but I realized very quickly that my bonus was, oh, I'm going to get animation works out of the box here unless I tell it not to. So I realized, like, oh, okay, there's the next feature, which is it's going to be animated, and you export it as a video file or GIF or whatever, right? So I had this version. I got a GIF somewhere of it on Twitter. You'll see it, and it generated like 3,000 nodes. It was crazy. Would a geometry reader be necessary? Indicate to the SpriteKit scene the width, height, perhaps. It is rendering to 0, 0 and has no mechanism to update on render. Stabs in the dark. No, those are good suggestions. I have used a geometry reader before because it just gave me what I needed. That is a pretty darn good suggestion. I have not looked at using it in this context. Let's take a look at that. Yeah, it could be that it's because it doesn't exist on the screen until it does, right? And stick with me on this. It cannot make the math on something that's like, well, hey, until you tell me the size, yes, that's entirely possible, because our did move here, right, is not the same. This update, right, is the one. In fact, I'll do this here. I'll show you. Our did move should be our screen preparation, but here's how I got my animation to give you an idea of how that works. And we're going to look at the geometry reader because that's a really good suggestion. Because I still think we need those numbers, and to track those numbers and to always know what they are, because I'm also thinking device rotation, right? It's going to come into play. But if I put these in the update, so this runs, I think it's every 0.02 seconds this runs. If I now run this, see, this is where it's now running the entire branch code over and over again, and you can see we're up to 5,000 nodes here. By the way, notice how impressive SpriteKit is, because we're still hitting 60 frames a second. Seems like an ideal use case, though. Her geometry readers are pretty taxing, though. As far as I understand, they should be used sparingly. Yeah, I got dinged by someone for using a geometry reader when it turned out it wasn't necessary, but I didn't know that at the time. Look at this. We're over 20,000 nodes. We're only just now hitting 44 frames a second. But I think it's, in my mind, it's valid, because we're only going to read the geometry when we need to, right? When it starts up, and if the screen changes in some way. On a Mac, when you're dragging the screen size, yeah, okay, that's more regular. On a device, it's really just going to be when you rotate it. I don't think it's too taxing on the system. It's just my thought. Let's put our original code back in place, because I only want it to run once for right now. I don't want to kill the system. Let's take a look at our geometry reader idea. So that's a good one. Let's go over here. First of all, let's make sure this is just my shapes drawing. Yeah, I'm going to leave that alone. I think that's good. Okay, over here. Sorry, wrong one. I'm actually in the wrong code base. There you go. Let's get rid of that slider. Just wanted to put that in there so you see what's going on there. Okay. Over here, we can put a geometry reader in here. Now, let me think about this, though, because at one time, what I had was a modifier, because you have this sprite view in here, you can actually put in modifiers as well. So I actually did have, for example, I'll just put in some numbers, right? You know, you can modify it here, and this is where the geometry reader may come into play, right? So forget the numbers that I put up here. It's right. It's now going to say, oh, okay, and put in whatever I put in here. So let me just, there you go. So that's why I think a geometry reader is a really good suggestion. Question's going to be where I put it. And I think, oh, actually, hold on. I just had a thought. I'm going to assume I can't set the anchor here, but maybe I can. Oh, shoot. You know what? Before I do the geometry reader, maybe let me take a look at this. This might. Here I am trying to do it separately all the time. Hang on. Give me 1 second. Maybe we don't need to. Maybe it's going to solve it for us. All right, what was it called? Anchor preference? Sprite view anchor preference. Oh, you know what though? Yeah, okay. It's going to be this may be the same problem for the geometry reader. It's actually going to be referencing the view at the SwiftUI level, not within inside the sprite view. I think that's what's going to happen here. Hang on. Yeah, see where they've got a geometry reader there. Well, let's try it anyway. I'm just going to, I'm save me some typing. I'm going to borrow their code. And now I'm going to completely replace it, but all right, so geometry reader and geometry. Let's get rid of all of this. Just clean that up. Actually, you know what? This is the beauty of SwiftUI. I can literally just make 2 instances to compare the differences, right? Trying to figure out which one might be easy to see. Let's put us. I can't spell. That's funny. Interesting, right? That it's overlapping them like that too. Okay. All right. We'll go with plan A. Let's just get rid of this one. You know what's funny about this too, have you noticed? Because it's now in the geometry reader, it's actually can be set anywhere you want it to be. All right, so let's make the frame height 300 just for now. Okay. I'm going to grab me some more coffee, folks. I will be right back. Hold on 1 second. All right, gotta have the coffee. Gotta keep my brain going. Okay. Now, let's see what we can do here. So, our sprite view. Do we send it in the position? So, let's try something. So we can have a center point, CG point. We'll give it a default just so things don't go badly. All right, CG point 0, 0. This probably is defined on SpriteKit scene and may not be available in this context. That's not what I wanted. Is it available though? I'm going to send it in a value, see if it complains. It's going to complain. Xcode always complains. Yeah. Oops. What I want to do, I think what I want to do is be able to send in the geometry reading into the SpriteKit scene. That's right. I think that's where we're going with this. It might take me a little while to figure this out, but I'm going to get there. Can I must be able to create, let me think. I must be able to get into this SpriteKit view here, the properties, right? I must be able to get into this somehow. And set. Let's make this an optional. I'm setting the scene for this, right? There's got to be a property that lets me get in here. Got to be one. And if why can I not create my own here? Let's try this. See what other folks have to say about this, right? And so that's the game scene. Kind of what I got going on here, right? Oh, you know what though? Hang on. Yeah, mine is from an SKC. These are the parts on a live stream that can get real boring for people when either someone else knows the answer and they're like, oh, come on, get it. Or you got to sit and watch me figure out the answer. But hey, that's the way it goes, right? If we were sitting in a room pair programming this, we'd have the same problem. Okay. So my SpriteKit scene is an SK scene, right? My sprite view is using the SpriteKit scene. It's got a frame. Make sure I'm not missing an obvious modifier here is what I'm worried about, right? What is the offset? What is that about too? That's another question I have. We're getting into some really weird math here. Oh, I see what's going on. Okay. So I'm offsetting within the frame. Okay. Oh, interesting. All right. Don't know why you'd want to do that, but okay. Transform environment. Don't know. But actually, that does make me wonder if there's a... Oh, wait. Oh, is this the one we looked at? Transform anchor preference? I think it might be. I gotta figure that. I really want to figure this out. Sprite view, transform, anchor. I had to change your views. Anchor point. Good old Paul Hudson. All right, so what's he got here? Has he got a convene? Paul Hudson has so much amazing stuff for SwiftUI, doesn't he? Thank goodness for Paul Hudson. But I think I mean, this is... Thing is, this is for a UI view, not really the one we want. But you never know. Let's try it. Maybe we can adapt what we got here. Oh, come on, Xcode. Don't foul me now. Actually, yeah, because the bounds, we may not need a geometry reader just because we could use the bounds here, but now I feel like I'm distracting myself by thinking that that's a solution that's not going to work. I know someone who's really, really good with SpriteKit, but unfortunately, he's not around this time of day. Which serves me right for doing the stream early, right? I think I'm close. I think this is a close solution. It just needs to be for the right type. Swift, Sprite View, set anchor to the middle of the view. No, no. Don't need observable objects, not for this. Oh, you know what though? We don't need our geometry reader if we can do that. Actually, so let's walk backwards here a little bit. Oh, did I break something? There you go. Let's put those in because those are going to be useful later on, I think. Except did I mess something up here? Oh, you know what? UI screen is not going to be available because this is for Mac. And I think it's got to be NS screen, right? All right. Well, I'm just, I got to stop distracting myself. Sorry, distracted myself with that there. This is what happens. You can start to thinking about one problem, then you find another. Okay, create a sprite node at the center of the screen. Yeah. Let's do this. Oh no. Okay, that is clearly not going to be the one. Let's just start with a number in from the corner. And then down here, this is all fine, but I think before that happens, we need to do this. Center dot anchor. Oh, actually, wait, can I? There's no way that can be right. Surely it's not that. All right, maybe we don't need that. Maybe I've just been missing the obvious all along. Let's do 1 and 1. I think I may be missing something there. Okay, no, there it is. Okay. Don't know what these numbers mean, so we will randomly type some in and find out. Oh, shoot, folks. Did we just nail the problem? Feel like we did. Dang. Wait, did I actually solve the problem here? I want to make sure I haven't got any hard-coded math that's messing with me. Let's do this. Let's go over to lines. Let's draw just one line. I want to see it coming out from the dot in the middle to confirm that I'm not crazy. Okay. Number of lines 1, 0, 0. This is the problem with random. Sometimes you have to run it a few times. Let me take that frame off of there. Don't want that. Okay. I got my dot. Let's take a look at the differences between dot and branch. Start point, end point, start point, end point. Okay, that's the 9. Let's do 5 lines. Okay. Either I'm incredibly unlucky or that is coming from the center. Let's find out. Nope, that is. Okay, that's perfect. Wow. Look at that. We got a total win right there at last. Okay. This is exactly what I wanted. I'm still cautious that I don't have any extra math in here anywhere. British Frog, thank you. So I think I don't think we needed the geometry reader in the end because it just came down to the fact that I had to set it on the scene. And I was misleading myself by thinking I needed to do it from outside in as opposed to just take care of yourself. I think that's what happened there. I think. At least for now, it looks like it's right. So, yay. All right. Dang. Okay. Now, let's do this. So, let's get a little creative here and start to test my idea for the controls. One of which is going to be that we're going to want, since this is randomly generated, makes more sense, much more sense. That's fine. Thank you. That's my theory. Watch me do something else that completely blows this out of the water. But, hey, we'll take it, right? Let's check this. Let's actually run this in the Mac version. And the idea here, by the way, is that this should work on all platforms. That's my goal here, is to make an app that'll run on all the platforms. I mean, yeah, that looks right. Coming from the center. Okay. It's like the worst golf game ever or something, right? Okay. Actually, you know, there's another way we can test this. Because if I do what I did before, hang on, bear with me. If I take all of this, and I override. Where did I put it? Let me think. We can test this by now animating it, in theory. Okay, it is. All right. If I put this in here, I'm not going to add the dot every time because I don't need multiple dots. I just need the branches. So dot renders once when it comes on the screen. Branches should go bananas. Yeah, there you go. They're all coming from the center, right? Wow. This is actually working better than I thought it would. What's the end goal? The end goal is to have this art generator that I wanted to make that will probably end up being sort of a fractal based type thing, but I want there to be a bunch of UI controls to control what it's rendering out on the screen, right? So I can tell it, hey, do it with X amount of branches, adjust the rotation. The idea being is that you're going to adjust all the controls to get an artwork that you like, and then there'll be other features, other stuff will come to mind at that point. But the idea being that I want to be able to tweak all of the controls to control this chaos into something that, you know, it's like, oh, I like that. You know, it's kind of like the fractal thing, right? Render it out and then, okay, I'll export it or do something with it. But I just wanted to get this, wanted to make this as a thing. This is not how it's going to end up. I chose a line. I wonder how I stopped this. I chose a line because I wanted it to be something that I could test the math with to get me to this point, right? So now that I'm at that point, I'm going to start adding some controls. Let's stop that craziness right there before I kill my machine. So that now I'll be able to do that, right? So there'll be a control to like add another branch, and instead of being random, I'd like okay, I want 5 branches. So it'll generate this one branch that looks like that, and then make 4 other copies, right? That'll either be circular or, again, a bunch of easy to use controls that you can play with to make a kind of a cool pattern thing that you want it to be. Does that make sense? You know, like the old school kind of fractal generator type things, right? But I wanted something that I could play with on my iPad or whatever, my Mac, something like that. And that was kind of the goal there. It was like, okay, well, let's see if I can do that, and then figure out where I take it from there, right? So I've sort of achieved the first part right there. But what I want to do now is, let's see if we can do this. I think I should start with a button that's like, hey, start over, right? Now what I want to do is, my next sort of benchmark here is, my next milestone is going to be a button that I click that tells the SpriteKit here, hey, start again, right? And then, you know, building it up from there, so that any controls that I add will update it in real. It'll tell it to redraw itself in real time, right? Does that make sense? Hopefully, if I got this far, I can make that happen. So let's do this. I'm going to leave this. So that's perfect. That's working like that. So now I'm going to add a button below it here. Just call it regenerate. And then we'll put our code in there. So British Frog, does that make sense? Did I make any kind of crazy sense there? Regenerate, and let's think. I'm gonna need a function in here. Let's get rid of this one. We're gonna need a function in here to tell it to start over, right? So regenerate. Let's just call it regenerate, right? And what I'll do is just start with a super simple console command to make sure I'm getting back into all the right places. So you hit the regenerate button, right? And then back over here, we're just going to tell it SpriteKit scene Actually, let's get rid of that. Get this to resume, get it to rebuild it. Regenerate. May not be in scope there, we'll see. Yep. Oh. I think I just got it half right. I think context is going to be my problem here. Yeah. Scope issues. Okay, so how do I tell my how do I call a function inside my SpriteKit scene? Maybe I don't even want to do that. Maybe it really should be an environment object, just so that everything else is hooked up accordingly and can respond. But let's take a look. Oh yeah, okay, so it needs to be state. All right, so I guess I should have seen that coming. Don't fail me yet. I haven't got there yet. Oh shoot, really? Would you be better off destroying the scene and creating a new one on regenerate? That's a good question. I wonder if that's better from a performance perspective. You're talking about trashing it from the screen entirely, right? Removing it from the screen, removed from memory. The thing is, if I can get it to work following state, this solves a lot of headaches because it'll regenerate itself. Well, I can set it up to regenerate itself based on basically changing anything related to state to do with that scene. Will tell it, hey, go ahead and rebuild yourself, because that's part of the beauty of SwiftUI is if a view becomes if the state changes, SwiftUI is going to rebuild that view anyway. And it should rebuild all child views within it. So it should actually take care of itself. Just by essentially doing something to invalidate the state, SwiftUI says, hey, wait a minute, better rebuild this for you. So it is essentially doing the same thing as removing it and putting it back. It's just that it does it so many times a second that even with animations and things like that, it's still repainting the view. We just don't see it happening because it's so fast. Does that make sense? I gotta solve this problem here. Let's just do this. I think I set it up as a constant, right? Constant SpriteKit scene. I think that's right. Could be wrong. Okay, I am wrong. All right, we'll come back to this in a second and fix this. Oh. No, I'm doing it in the right place. Oh, but you know what? No. I think actually this is the problem here. No, they did the same thing. Create that, set that, set that. Return it. Property wrapper cannot be applied to a computer property. Whoops. Oh dear, what'd I do? Okay. What did I get wrong? Sprite view. Set the size. Blah blah. Sprite view. Okay, well let's get rid of that for starters. Don't need that anymore. Clean everything out. Make sure one thing I've learned with Xcode, make sure your error is a real error. It is. Okay. How to build the scheme. Yeah. Okay, that's fair. That should work on a Mac, right? Okay, SpriteKit scene is an SK scene. SpriteKit scene, yep, an SK scene. And inside there, We create, this is a computed property. Can't be that. I must really be missing the obvious here. Oh, hang on. That should be a SpriteKit scene for starters, because it's creating a new one and returning it. Not that I think. I mean, they're both sort of the same, but is it complaining because of this? No, because that's computed before we get into it, so it shouldn't matter. That should work. Oh, well, there was something I saw here. No, I may have to work on this one a bit here, but boy, I made a lot of progress here. All right, give me 1 second here. I will be right back. All right, sorry. Okay. I think I may call it a day here for right now. Although I may revisit this later on today. Just feel like I need a break, but I have achieved what I really what I wanted to get done here today. I got done and some, but I really wanted to love to have got this final bug issue resolved here quickly so that you could all walk away knowing exactly how this works. But maybe I do. Maybe I figure this out, and then in the next stream I'll share the answer on here, along with all of your fantastic suggestions for podcast episodes as well. Thank you so much for those. Definitely going to work on those as well. I love it when folks suggest content because I can go away, do that for you, and bring that back. So thank you so much for that as well. And if you have any thoughts on, that you want to bring into play there as well, like, hey, British Frog, if you have some thoughts, please reach out to me on compileswift.com, share those, and I will be happy to incorporate those into the podcast episode and see if maybe we're thinking along the same lines. Yeah, I think I'm going to leave it in here for now, and we will revisit this next time where we'll start to bring in a lot of these Swift UI controls to control the way things are being built out here now that we've got that far, which, like I say, will actually involve a lot of, let me go in here. So basically you can see like a lot of this stuff right here, right? Where we set up this random rotation, random length, when it's drawn to the screen. Those are the kind of things I'm going to be looking to do controls on here to begin with. Also ones for colors. Maybe you can select colors and something like that, or select a color. All of those kind of basic things to start off with. And then we will continue to build this engine from there and really turn this into beyond an engine and into more of an app where, like I say, maybe you can export the images or something like that as well, right? Maybe you end up with a preset that you can, these numbers that you find that you like, and you can save them, you can share them with people, something like that. These are all ideas that I'm kicking around for this now that I've proven that I can get this to where I think I want it to be. So thank you everybody for sitting through and working through this, and thank you so much to the chat room for your suggestions. Shout out to Sevens and British Frog. Thank you so much for your suggestions and questions and comments. Greatly appreciate you taking part. we will definitely pick this up next time and take it from there. Hoping to do my midweek stream for SpriteKit game creation this week, if time permits, but that certainly is my goal. We have a community game going on there with a code base that we all contribute to, and we've got a lot of features and everything else that we're working on together. And so with that, I will leave it there for now. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate your time. Reach out to me. Like I say, compile Swift everywhere. And I will look forward to talking to you next time. Thank you so much. Take care and have a great start to the week.